Day 2 of the World Cup delivered a tense, emotional draw for Canada and an explosive blowout victory for the United States. But beneath the roaring crowds and the raw emotion on the pitch lies a cold, mathematical reality. Tournament progression requires precise tactical execution. These matches are decided by the deliberate manipulation of specific variables and match states over 90 minutes, rather than relying on momentum or fireworks. We can see this clearly by analyzing Canada's grueling attritional battle against Bosnia and Herzegovina. Evaluating the Canadian starting 11, we see a host nation positioned to establish dominance early. Now, compare that setup directly with the United States' rapid dissection of Paraguay at SoFi Stadium. The U.S. men's national team deployed a drastically different posture to secure their initial points. This tactical timeline maps the entire 90 minutes of match play. We'll use this model to track exact moments where tactical control shifted. By plotting isolated micro-events onto this axis, we strip away broadcast visual noise, revealing the underlying structural geometry of both fixtures. Mapping these two matches side by side uncovers two highly distinct, mathematically deliberate pathways to securing points on the global stage. Resetting our tactical timeline to the opening whistle, we begin with Canada. Bosnia and Herzegovina established a highly compact defensive bloc immediately. Their structure was designed entirely to absorb possession and frustrate the host's attacking rhythm. The physical profile of the Bosnian squad provided the structural stability required to maintain that low block without buckling. This diagram illustrates the 21st minute, highlighting the trajectory of a set-piece corner that triggered the first major structural breakdown. A clear defensive marking failure allows an uninterrupted run directly through the Canadian penalty area to meet the cross. Jovo Lukic capitalized on the open space, burying the header and forcing an immediate tactical reset for both sides. Mathematically, Canada was now operating entirely inside a negative expected goal deficit. They needed to generate high-probability scoring chances against an opponent with no incentive to leave their defensive shape. Facing this deficit, the Canadian squad had to abandon their initial strategy of patient build-up play and force the ball into increasingly tighter windows. That single set-piece failure dictated the subsequent flow of play, locking Canada into a reactive cycle of attritional attacks against a heavily fortified line. Fast-forwarding the timeline to the 53rd minute, we reach the peak of Canada's offensive push to secure an equalizer. On this top-down sequence, Canada achieves high-value penetration into the penalty area, only for the shot to be violently intercepted at the crossbar. In data terms, this high-leverage intervention carries the exact statistical weight of a goal scored. Sead Kolasinac executed that clearance. Without Kolasinac's precise physical intervention at the goal line, the tactical geometry of the final 30 minutes would have reversed entirely. Advancing to the 78th minute, Canada finally found the numerical advantage they needed via a specific substitution. The introduction of Cyle Larin provided the exact tactical profile necessary to dismantle the exhausted Bosnian low block. Utilizing fresh legs and acute positioning, Larin bypassed the defensive line to secure the equalizer. Canada earned their historic first World Cup point through sheer structural attrition, hammering away until they forced a single mistake from a rigid defense. Shifting to SoFi Stadium, we reset the timeline to the opening whistle of the USA versus Paraguay fixture. Notice the offensive third immediately turning deep red. This illustrates an offensive overload. The U.S. suffocated the opponent's transition space right from kickoff. Faced with this immediate pressure, Paraguay lost all ability to establish their intended counterattacking rhythm. Contrast this directly with the Canadian match state. Instead of chasing a deficit, the U.S. established a massive early gap in class and dictated the tempo. Building a multi-goal lead inside the first half significantly de-risks a match, mathematically insulating a team against late-game variance. Moving the timeline to the closing stages of the game allows us to examine the only moment of true tactical volatility. Paraguay successfully executed a late offensive transition, resulting in Mauricio's consolation goal. Late goals in tournament play are uniquely dangerous because they threaten to trigger an immediate psychological momentum shift. However, the American squad neutralized that threat before it could manifest into any structural advantage for Paraguay. Gio Reyna deployed a stunning Trivela finish to instantly restore the goal differential. High-level technical finishing acts as the ultimate dampener to an opponent's tactical resurgence, erasing hope as quickly as it appears. By establishing an early, unbridgeable gap, the U.S. rendered their late-game defensive lapses mathematically irrelevant, cruising to a comfortable 4-1 victory. This visualization stacks both 90-minute timelines vertically, giving us a complete comparative overview of the host nations. On the top timeline, we see tightly clustered, high-stress critical nodes defining Canada's attritional battle. On the bottom timeline, the data is entirely front-loaded, reflecting the USA's early dominance and minimizing any late-game volatility. Canada survived a negative match state through persistent pressure and precise, targeted substitution execution late in the half. The United States completely bypassed late-stage stress by capitalizing on offensive overload to put the game out of reach early. Both of these models are mathematically sound methods for securing points. Success depends entirely on a team's tactical profile and their ability to execute specific micro-events. Navigating the World Cup group stage is rarely an exercise in luck or hype. It is a rigid, calculated process of managing match states from the opening whistle to the final stoppage time.